The first festival was so successful by any measure. It was an incredible feeling that I don't think anything will ever touch because of the magnitude of that first year.
I think it really validated all the people that were making music in Detroit. They'd never played in their hometown in front of a crowd that large. They had finally got their recognition from the city of Detroit, from not just the city, but the people that lived here.
I think the last time that I remember seeing so many people before that time was when the Grand Prix was downtown. But that's the way it should be. It should be energy all the time that happens in this city.
Everything about it was positive. The largest event that Hart Plaza has ever seen. It's the most positive press Detroit has gotten in I don't know how many years. I mean, it had a press book this thick. I mean, it was just amazing.
I think the time when I was really excited the most was some kids, 18, 19 years old, came up to me and said, "You're the guy who's doing that festival. This is great. I'm so happy that you're doing this." And that made it more important than anybody else. This was like purely the real Detroit youth, the guys that are interested in being inspired.
For the director of the festival to fire Carl Craig on the eve of his second event in the city, it was devastating to the momentum of the festival. It really was. When you take the pivotal person out of such a big thing, you no longer have a pivot, so you fall over.
Ford came on as the title sponsor, and then Carl Craig was let go. Everybody thought that Ford fired Carl. Ford didn't have anything to do with it.
Those were the two new elements that were introduced that year. Ford's the title sponsor, Carl Craig's fired. So it was only a natural association for, someone that was outside the loop would look at, and they would think that there was some kind of a relationship there, when there was in fact not a relationship there.
Supposedly he wasn't fulfilling his contract with logistics, but okay. Kind of like the producer of a film and the star of the film. 9 times out of 10, you don't even know or care who's producing it. The star of the film is what is going to sell tickets. Carl was getting too much credit. Some people have a problem with that, wanting to be in the limelight.
He was forced out. So yes, it did change, potentially in danger of the festival completely being something totally different.
It felt like the Electronic Music Festival was being taken away from the electronic music community.
A lot of the artists were upset, and but they played because Carl said, don't back out, because everybody's gonna like, we're not playing.
It was a bad year. There was a lot of revolt. There was a lot of opposition to the direction of it. On one hand, you had a very serious disruption of something not being right in the world. And on the other hand, it pulled everybody in the electronic music community closer together. There were little pink stickers that said, "I support Carl Craig." There was a huge banner, like a dragon-length banner that was walked through the festival.
It said, DEMF equals Carl Craig. Carl was the face of the festival. That one pivotal point changed everything. It was so much negativity and controversy. All the headlines are, dark cloud looms over the DEMF. I'm like, why does it have to be like that? It got destroyed by ego.
The ego demons. Unfortunately, the egos will get you every time.
It was a shame, because I felt like not only was it bad in 2001, but it lingered on in 2002.
2002, third year, I bowed out. I had no role. After what happened, I was just taking a back seat to the whole thing. Just stood back and watched.
It had changed so much in 3 years. It didn't have the same heart. It lost its heart and soul. It was gone. The producers of the first festival had the contract for 3 years, and then after that, the city did not renew their contract.
They weighed everything out, and they chose to work with an artist and to bring the electronic music community back into the Electronic Music Festival. Derrick May, specifically, coming in now as a festival director, he was the guy for the time. I look at that decision that City Hall made back in 2003, and it was one of the smartest things that they did.
At that time, I don't think there was anybody but Derrick, that could have saved it, to get the recognition that it did in order for people to still believe in it. Everybody banded together again. Everybody pitched in and donated their time.
When Derrick took over the festival, it was a struggle to rebuild it. Derrick took the helm of a sinking ship.
If you remember in the beginning, the city was paying her, and they were paying for the festival. It changed when Derrick got it. It was, well, if you want the festival, you can have it, but you have to do it all.
The city was difficult through the whole process. I mean, they really dragged their feet. The city didn't okay it until 2 or 3 months before. And you can't sign contracts, you can't get sponsorship money, you can't make these commitments until you have the city's approval.
Unfortunately, it was handed over at the last minute. It did happen. It stayed alive. Obviously, there was issues, had nothing to do with his planning, his organization. It had more to do with not enough time and with no funding.
Derrick took it, and they had a successful run. They had a bunch of people that came out, but again, because there was no mass funding for it, that, you know, they were really flying by the seat of their pants, and you know, he took a beating on that year.
He believed that the festival, to survive, it must happen, so he made sure it happened. 2004, first week of May, some sponsorship had pulled out, and the festival was not going to happen. That's when I got involved with the festival. I jumped in there with Derrick at the end, brought some funding in, and we made it happen. And after then, the city of Detroit approached me about doing the festival. I knew it needed money, and the city wasn't prepared to do that. If you guys cannot fund the festival's not going to happen. I need to be able to charge. Didn't hear from the city until like January of 2005.
I don't understand like why they couldn't say the day after the festival, okay, you can do the next one. So there's time to prepare and time to procure these sponsorships.
Basically, the city said, look, we're going to bring some resources in. We're going to help you. Can you make this happen? Thought about it, talked to a team of people, decided to try.
In 2005, we were asked by Kevin to produce the underground stage. And we were really happy about that because we felt that it was the smaller of the few, but it was the most intimate. It was a strong representation of Paxahau and who we wanted to bring in.
Working with Paxahau was a great experience. They came in, they had a team of people, just very professional, down to business.
After a number of meetings with Kevin, we were able to make a decision that we were going to invite different promoters to also help with the festival's promotion and the production of it. Those 3 days were the craziest days of our lives.
For one, they had great relationships with artists. You had Richie Houghton playing on the underground stage. Blowing everyone's mind. You know, I mean, Richie wouldn't do that for anybody else. You know, you had this wall of sound. You know, like I've just seen them grow, and they have a good core of people.
We also decided that we still had the responsibility to produce events every night as well. So we did our first electronic music festival stage at the same time we produced after parties for every single night. The festival ended on a great note. We just walked away with, you know, a head full of memories and ideas. You know, looking back, this was probably still one of my favorite years down there.
Kevin and Derrick, you know, they put their money on the table. You know, they put their money where their mouth was. They rolled up their sleeves and they ran the festival for a couple of years.
They had to step up to save it. At that time, I don't think there was anybody but Derrick and Kevin that could have saved it.
Kevin and Derrick took the helm of a sinking ship, and they righted it.
What led me decided not to do the festival for future years is the politics and the issues that no one could ever imagine I was dealing with the city. I figured I played a role by getting at least to that point. And whoever took it over next, at least we got it to that point. And the goal, I would hope at that point that it just somehow it'll find its way like it's always had.